Is usually the biggest kind of jump for whether it's a player or coach. It's been nice to be able to kind of take that time off after the season, jump right into it, both sides of the ball. Defense had a change, and as you know, with Steve going to Cincinnati, bringing in Lee Torrance, and now we've added Chip Vaughn because we promoted Eric, but then Eric had another opportunity at Stanford. So really kind of hiring two guys that have been in the system before. Those parts change, and really it's been an easy transition for us. But just going through our meetings, sitting in the defensive stuff, and going through the offensive meetings with our self scout, it's been valuable. I think there's a lot of learning going on. There's a lot of ways to close loopholes on some stuff, so it's been important this last month or so. That wasn't something I asked him. We got a lot of time between now and when we start the offseason. I think really the biggest thing was just making sure he was comfortable going forward, whether it's the running game, passing game, different ways that we can use them. Really, at this point of the season, it's a good time for our guys just to get away and kind of, with the rules the way they are, it makes it really easy where they can get away from football for a second, and when they come back, we can kind of, revisit all that. We're always going to love our guys being there in the spring because it just closes a lot of the loopholes that you have in the system. And, if he's not, then we'll adjust, and that's just kind of how the rules are set up to where we can't really do anything about it.
How much more of a challenge would it be
It's not a huge deal because I thought he did such a good job of picking everything up in training camp. He was there that mini camp. He picked everything up really quickly, and then when he came to training camp, he knew it so well, so fast. It was really impressive to see. I think he just has such a good sense football-wise that terminology is irrelevant to him. He can figure it out fairly quickly.
What are those different ways that you kind of use them now that you've had a couple months?
It's just really going to be about doing the right things schematically. Really, depending on kind of what direction we go, with the run game, just making sure that we get him the right reps with the right guys, making sure that we're all on the same page. In the passing game, it's always going to be about what's the best way to use them. And, we're always going to keep exploring that, whether it's keep going back and look at some older stuff, talking with him, seeing some of the stuff he did really well for us this year. We'll keep exploring that. We got a lot of time, and, when we get him back in the building, we'll have a lot of time with him to just keep discussing it.
How important is it for the running? What do you feel like the next step for Sarah?
It's kind of like the coaching staff. It's like that second year, and doing anything, you can kind of close a lot of the questions you have. You have those answers, and now it allows him to play faster. Heading into next offseason, he'll know so much of the system. It's not more of a learning, hey, what's the formation, what's the play call. Those things he's got a great grasp on. It's just the fine details of if you do get a coverage that you weren't expecting, kind of knowing where to go with the ball, knowing your outs, knowing all those little tiny things that really you close those loopholes, you can play faster, you make the right decisions, in the most critical parts of the game. I think anytime that you can keep bringing, guys that have been in the system back, it's helpful, not only the coaching staff but to the entire building because everybody kind of knows the flow of everything. They know the schedule, they know how practice is going to go, they know the systems, just how everything works out. It's just there's no learning curve. Guys can just get better from where they left off. It's just when you head into free agency, it's just so unpredictable. It's once you get there, it's just hard to tell what's going to happen.
How important is it to have an experienced connection, whether it's running back or whatever, somebody who's a more dynamic player for the defense?
Anytime that you can have anybody that can really, if you throw a ball 3 yards and they can go 65, that's always great to have. It's also great to have a guy that can go over the top, that can really stretch the field, cause the safety to lean one way, make sure that they have some too high looks, just opens up the lanes for the running back. Anytime you add speed to your team, it's a positive thing for an offense. There's a lot of them. There's a lot. I mean, it's the wide receiver group is a large group. There's a lot of speed. There's a lot of guys with experience. There's a lot of guys that can do a lot of good things. I think right now, especially with free agents that we have really kind of available, we have holes just by guys being contracts up, and I know Joe is. They've been working on this, relentlessly starting during the season because that's just kind of how it goes. Those guys are working on this year round. They know we got some holes to fill. We got to do a good job with that. We got to find the right guys for us, and we got to make sure that our O-line's ready to go, and we got to have a bunch of guys that can help us and protect the quarterback.
Combine those last two questions. How do you weigh comparing Sam with a young receiver that he can grow with for 5-10 years versus a young tackle?
Yeah, that's it's really what's the best thing, what's best available, and what are our options. I mean, you just don't know till you get there. So, I know there's a lot of work that we got to do from here until really the season starts. So we got to find those answers. Yeah, it'll be nice that we're past the mono thing. I'm happy about that. We got that one checked off, health-wise. We want to do it, make sure that, he can do everything he can to stay healthy throughout the year. We have to do a good job, preparing for the season, which he did last year. He was in great shape heading into the season, and then we just have to do a good job of just protecting him. We can't, him having those kind of little minor bumps and bruises, it's kind of part of the job, and just the recovery aspect of it is going to be important for him. I think that he'll have the opportunity, if he keeps doing what he's been doing as far as what I saw last year from spring to training camp through the season, being able to kind of overcome some of the adversity that he had. I'm really encouraged by where he could go from here. I think he has obviously the skill set. You guys see that when you guys see him throw the ball in practice and in training camp and during games. Some of the throws that he makes is, it's one of those things you just shake your head like, how do you make that throw? And it's just really going to be about the consistency, game in and game out. Can we be the same guy every game? I think that's something that he's going to always work on, and hopefully we can get him there this year.
Receivers in this year's class, do you see this as sometimes top heavy, sometimes deep? Is this a deeper class than this top heavy?
It's a lot of the guys that I've seen. It's just there's just a lot of guys that are fast that make a lot of plays. So I mean, we'll kind of see how it works out, and who falls where, and when we're going to have opportunities to, whether we take a guy or we get a guy in free agency or re-sign one of our own guys.
Adam, this division has gone to New England for a long, long time. They might have some changes around the free agent. Does it feel like the AFC might be more open this year?
One of the other three teams has to go take it. I think right now they've won the division so many years in a row. Coach Belichick's done a great job, and his staff. One of us has to do a good job of outplaying those guys for a full season. That hasn't been an easy thing to do.
What kind of changes are you looking to make this offseason?
It's that second year of the program. I think guys will have a better understanding coming into it, what to expect. Starts in the spring and then heads into training camp. It's just a lot of those little tiny things that you didn't know when you're a player or even a coach that you actually going into it. And so a lot of the little details guys can clean up, and then that helps you in games.
Something that Le'Veon Bell was involved with your offense. What kind of players are you looking to surround them?
Anytime we can add players that really can bring speed, can contribute, whether it be in the pass game or the run game, that's really what we're looking for. Really, probably it's knowing our guys. When you have more of a relationship heading into the season, that's always, it's a critical thing. It's something that can kind of, it shortcuts all those. When you have anything that happens with players where they're not sure on something, they're not afraid to come ask you. You can get things cleaned up so much faster instead of kind of everybody trying to feel their way out. I think this year it's, we got there at the end of the year, especially where guys were very open and honest. If they didn't understand something, they came and asked. You know, if we weren't on the same page, we would get it figured out quickly.
How do you value finding good offensive linemen in free agency versus guys that work together maybe not necessarily 5 players?
Yeah, it's tough because in free agency you're going off of, you know, what you've known in the past, off of guys like you check all the research that you've had, you know, whether it's coming out of college or some guys might have had some of our, you know, players that are in free agency on a different staff. You know, that's one good thing about having guys that have been around a little bit. They've had a lot of experiences with different guys. You know, you just try to do the best you can to find the 5 that will work well together. It's a tough puzzle to put together. I wish it was really easy where you just say, here you go, and you went and rolled. But, you know, that's the toughest part about, you know, being a GM where Joe's got to figure out how to put those puzzles together the right way to where, you know, we can hit the ground running and we have success doing it. I think that's our starting point because I think really on both sides of the ball, that's where it starts, is up front. You know, just over the last 15 years, seeing that's always been the toughest thing to try to put together. And the guys that work well together, that's when you have success. And when they don't, that's where you're not as good.
A couple injury updates. Sam's thumb had any effect on him in the spring? And CJ, where is he at? Do you expect him to be ready?
Yeah, Sam's heading in the right direction. I think we're going to be good to go for the spring. And then CJ is doing really well. You know, he's coming along. I think we're going to be good for the spring. It's just going to, if those guys stay on track, keep doing what they're doing, I think we're going to be in good shape. It's hard. I mean, we obviously all want to say yes, but I think one of us actually has to go and do it and figure out a way to jump in front of New England. It's tough because they've held on in the division for so long. I think we just got to do a good job of focusing on what we have to do to make sure that we're doing everything right, you know, in our building. It's hard for me to even say anything. I don't know what their team's going to look like until, you know, we start the season. You know what? I actually saw him the other day. He was working out. You know, he looks good. You know, I mean, as far as his body looks good. I know that he's trying to do everything he can to just see how healthy he can get. I don't know the exact details, but he seemed really good mentally and physically looked good.
Was kind of a follow-up on the perception all year was that Le'Veon wasn't your type of guy. Did you guys have that connection? He mentioned it.
Yeah, I mean we talk a lot during the season, you know. So I mean, he's not a complainer. I mean, he does his job. He does everything he can to try to help us win. You know, we've had a few text exchange over you know, since the offseason, just checking in on each other. You know, he's been great for us. You know, he's done everything I've asked him to do. He tries to do the things the right way. You know, I mean, what everybody else says, I think we're both to the point of we really don't care. As long as our relationship's good, we're good.
Adam, regarding this call-up, is it fair to say that someone who's on
I mean, we'll see what happens.
Adam, quick last one here. When Joe talked to us 2 days after the season, he said one of the organization has got better communication. He talked about it. You guys talk about that, and how do you kind of document that?
Yeah, that's something that we've really, it was discussing throughout the season about just making sure that we were doing a good job. That's something that we're always looking to improve on is our communication, whether it's, you know, to ownership, front office to coaches, coaches to front office, coaches to players, front office to players, all those type of things. We're always looking to get better at that. It's you're dealing with a lot of guys, and you're trying to do everything you can to make sure everybody is in the know and everything's being explained the right way.
Thank you, everyone. Joe Douglas.